Same process, but we're on to the second measure, starting on that E flat, of course without L1 down, and then we're going to stop on the B flat in measure 3. All right, back to hold 1. Think about your goals here, notes and articulations. Even though we would be slurring this in real time, go ahead and you can always start with the tongue if you want, even though it won't be there long term, just to give you a clear attack. Finger blips, clearly my goal this time. Did you hear how I slowed it down to make that cleaner? Okay, so finger technique, probably something I still need to think about. Getting better. I might be able to speed it up a little bit. Double check that you're starting with no L1 on E flat. All right, getting clear, slurring everything. Excellent. Moving on to hold 2. Say those numbers in your head to help you keep those handholds on 2. Use that time to think ahead. Play it slower if you need to. How are those notes and articulations? All the flats working out in there? Is your thumb still on thumb B flat? Is it coming back down to thumb B flat when you land on the B flat in measure 3? So a finger blip happened there, and I need to double check where my thumb is landing when I lift up from C and return to B flat. Of course, it would be very clear if you were returning to the thumb B, unless you're putting R1 down. So make sure R1 should not be involved. Only the left hand should be moving. That's part of the beauty of thumb B flat, is we don't need the right hand involved except for the pinky key. All right, let's move on to hold 3. Of course, pause in between any of these if you need to keep repping. Do it until it is easy. Make it easy. Holding 3. 1, 2, 3. Pick a goal. Mine's going to be posture. Okay, what about flute angle? Are you up here? Are you down there? Make sure your head's with your flute. What about your wrist? Are you rolling in like this as you play? If you hear that kind of sound change, very well could be that your wrist is rolling in. Keep that nice and steady so that you have balance with your flute. All right, pause if you need to keep working on hold 3. Once you're ready, we'll move on to hold 4. Notes and articulations still at the forefront, but pick some foundational elements too. Pick a goal, do it again. What do you hear in your sound? Is it kind of beady? Is it supported? Is your tone open and rich? A couple more times. Even though you may not need a ton of air, are you getting a good breath, or are you doing a catch breath from the chest, like a little? Make sure it's a breath from the diaphragm, from the abdominal wall. That's where you get your control and your support. All right, once you have hold 1 through 4 comfortable, then of course it is on to long, short, short, long. Say the words in your head. Are your notes and articulations correct? What about your sound? Smooth and even? Did you hear that finger blip in there? Correct that. Keep those fingers moving together. If you're regularly missing a note, mark it in. Mark the accidental or mark one of those transition markings so that you remember that, hey, my eyes need to get a little bit ahead here. I tend to miss this transition. Last time. Of course, that probably shouldn't be my last time, because if you heard that E flat to G, that wasn't super clean, right? So even though in my head that was my last time, I should do it again. All right, the basics were all there. My foundation needs a little bit of work, but I'm going to go ahead and flip my pattern. Okay, so now I'm short, long, okay? Thinking about smooth and open sound. What do you hear in your playing? What do you feel in your body? What are you going to fix next time? What specific error or specific improvement are you going to work on? Keep doing short, long until that is comfortable, and then of course it's back with the metronome. All right, so let's drop down to where we were before. Of course, if you're more comfortable at a faster tempo, start there, but we're going to do this at 42. And of course, this means we're back with real rhythm. 1 and 2, and make sure you're tapping a toe, not your whole foot, just a toe, okay, just a toe. The whole foot tap, this is what I see a lot. Watch my flute. And there's kind of like this motion that travels upward. It's more evident when you're faster, but that's why I really recommend tapping a toe and not a whole foot, because you don't want that movement translating up the body into the flute and adjusting your coverage a tiny bit as you play. All right, in time. Okay, that blip is still there. If I haven't already written it, I need to write a transitional marking between E flat and G. Same thing again. That's getting better. If I was still struggling with that, it would probably be a good opportunity to stop and go work in further practices with isolation. All right, clicking it up too, same thing. Pick your goal. I'm going to keep my chin up. We're starting to move into the high register just a little bit. Are you staying nice and open, nice and supported? Everything smooth and even. And keep working that up. When you hit about the tempo that you did on measure 1, if you can get them to about the same spot, great. So let's pretend that we have worked that up to 62 also, which is where we stopped in measure 1. So now we're going to put those two measures together. And before we do that with a metronome, what I encourage you to do, whether there's difficulty or not, is to run at least the long, short, long pattern across the whole thing. You should be able to do this much more quickly at this point, and it's just a good smoothing combination technique that will again allow for faster tempi work with the metronome itself. All right, so long, short, long over that whole thing. If this is difficult, stop and do hold 1 through 4, just holding each one a couple times through this whole thing. But we're gonna do long, short, long from the beginning. Do you hear those articulations? I was paying attention to notes, but maybe not thinking about articulation so much. Make sure there's only one tongue. It's at the beginning. Everything else is slurred. Couple finger blips. Maybe I should write in a transition notation. Or maybe I just need to support my sound and think about my finger technique. A little bit faster. All right, feeling good? Flip the pattern to short, long. Of course, pause at any point if you need more work on any of these. Short, long. Think about using your air or maybe crescendoing upward a little bit as we start reaching into the high register. I didn't have great support or openness through there. One more time. All right, getting better. Time to put it back with a metronome, the whole thing together starting at 62. Actually, since that's where we ended, let's start it at 58. Give ourselves a couple clicks. At a slightly slower tempo, you may even need to drop down further when you combine things, just because that transition, even though we've added that holding, looping to the downbeat, the transitions can still sometimes be a little shaky. Whole thing at 58. What did you notice? What did you hear? Pick a specific goal. If you did well, click it up, do it again. I did not have very good breathing at the beginning there, so that would be what I think about this time, getting a good breath and engaging the core. I got a little beaty as I started going up a little note to note, so I'm going to make sure that I smooth that out even as I'm getting higher. Beady. Did notice my fingers starting to fly away a little bit. That's probably the next thing to think about. Keep them close. It'll smooth things out too. All right, better all the way around. How's your thumb B flat doing? Is it staying put through the whole thing? Remember, it's not just for B flat. It stays there for everything that's got a thumb down in this etude. What about the L1 on E flat? Are you adding that down as you're combining, or are you remembering to keep that open? Did you hear that error in there? Okay, that would obviously be the correction that I would need to make next time. But did you hear that I did not go back and catch and correct? That's really critical. Keep going. But mentally, since you're being aware, mentally note exactly what error you made. And if I've never missed that before, I may not mark it. If I ever miss it again, absolutely will. Usually I don't miss that B flat. So if I only missed it once, I may not mark it, to be perfectly honest. But it's not going to hurt you if you do. All right, I'm still going to go ahead and click it up. As you keep working through this, if this is easy, great. If this is hard, that's okay. Keep it slow, move it up gradually, and have a plan with every repetition. Think about what is difficult and why. Are the fingerings difficult because you're not using thumb B flat? Is the sound not stellar because you're putting L1 down on E flat, or because you're not supporting, not keeping things open? Is your tempo shifting because you're not working with a metronome? You're just trusting yourself to maintain the steady tempo? Are you feeling really beat heavy, either top or bottom, in the eighth notes, thinking da, 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 da? Are we getting that really beady feeling because you're not thinking about steady airstream moving ahead? All right, but as you've played through this, so we got this up to 70. I would say keep working, but once you reach your ending point for the day, whether that's because you feel like, hey, I've made good progress, I'm going to learn the next two measures and then we're going to tack it on all together. Or if you're like, yeah, I'm frustrated and I'm ready to stop. Or if you've hit your ceiling for your tempo for the day. Whatever it is, mark that tempo in. You should be erasing the one or two tempo markings that you had there already. And then say you got this to 80. Great. So rewrite that in and either make like a mark over the bar line where we stopped, knowing that you've worked on measures 1 and 2, or if you're going to go immediately on to 3 and 4, which we will learn in the exact same fashion, then just move on to 3 and 4, and then you'll already know where you're going to get those measures up to tempo-wise, and then you'll be able to combine it all. Of course, if you have anything difficult here still, if there are transitions, mark them. If you keep missing the E-flat fingering, that fourth space, and you keep accidentally adding L1, put a little open circle above the note. It should look like an open key in fingering chart, and that can serve as a reminder for you. That's my personal marking when I'm adding fingers that shouldn't be down. But mark things, mark it up, help your future self. And when you are ready to move on to the next two measures, head on down to the next section of this chapter, and we will learn and put together the next two measures. This process, though, I know this kind of took a long time. This was a longer beginning, like we spent half an hour on two measures, right? But those two measures should be very, very comfortable at this point. Even if they're slow, they should be comfortable. Speed is not an issue. That can be easily worked up to tempo. However, you want the notes, articulations, and rhythms accurate early on. Small things, slowly, with great accuracy. That is the goal. And of course, I was talking through a lot of this, and this is a new concept most likely. So as you practice on your own, once you know what you're doing through all of this, it should go more quickly, because you will be thinking and analyzing on your own without me here being like, so what about your posture? You'll start being your own analyst and your own teacher as you go. All right, I will see you in the next section.